Hey everyone, so I'm just going to make another video in regards to this whole Cambridge Analytica Facebook debacle. This nothing burger that has been completely blown out of proportion, well, as a direct result, as a consequence of the establishment media reporting this shit with their political narratives instead of just being openly honest and objective in regard to what this means. They even would talk about these things. Well, I'll cover it as soon as I go through. I got about a 4-minute segment video here that I'll be referencing from an article at a Global News, and I'll be dealing with it as we go along. But yeah, there's a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of clarification that needs to take place by people like myself, I guess, that's the only ones out here trying to be honest with you, trying to clear the air here a little bit so you can be properly informed in regards to how you should react to this kind of stuff, right? Now, I'm not saying, listen, Facebook, it collects a lot of your data, and yes, it does sell it, but hey, come on. You signed up to this platform voluntarily. You know, it's not like government, right, that fucking imposes itself on you whether you like it or not. Facebook, wholly voluntarily. So little personal responsibility goes a long way in that regard already. Yeah, I'm not going to give you none of this victim mentality bullshit. I'm not going to allow you to play the victim card just by the sheer fact that the data that you voluntarily chose to share by joining up on these platforms, these social media platforms, I'm not going to let you kind of get off the hook as far as personal responsibility. You all chose that stuff voluntarily. And yes, there's been changes along the way, but if it was concerning to you enough that you were, you know, it escalated your concerns to the point where, hey, I don't want my data being shared. Well, you could have opted out completely. You could delete your entire Facebook page, or you could have just never entered into that relationship at all. Anyways, this particular article out of Global News by Alex Pearson, headline, "Social media played a huge role in electing Justin Trudeau." So yeah, it's not just Brexit or the Trump campaign. I mean, they've all been doing this stuff, folks. And if you're really that out of touch, then, you know, if you don't understand this stuff already, you know, just a, personal suggestion here. Keep your kind of opinions subdued to the point where you're at least informed properly. Because as you spew shit out there, whether it's on these social media platforms or to your friends, if you're doing things like the establishment media or the political or ruling class and misinforming them, you know, by giving them these bullshit lies or rhetoric or propaganda espoused by these establishment media hacks, well, you're just creating more confusion. You're not helping clarify anything, and you're not actually helping the people that should be truly concerned. Anyways, I'm going to play this 4-minute segment here and deal with the most important points that are presented within it.
Thanks for joining us. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg has finally broken his silence on the pressure his company is facing to fix the social network, releasing a statement saying, "We have a responsibility to protect your data, and if we can't, then we don't deserve to serve you." Zuckerberg has promised to investigate apps that have access to your data. He says he will further restrict developers' access to your data, and he's vowing to make it easier for users to revoke permissions to collect your data from those third-party apps. Clearly, Facebook is under intense pressure, facing investigations, probes, and hearings in Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. They all want answers about why it allowed Cambridge Analytica to harvest the data of 50 million Facebook users without their permission.
That bit of information that's been propagated by all those in the established media is something that I want to cover and clarify right now. These 50 million users, what that represents, it was 200 and something thousand people that took this voluntarily quiz or survey. But because these 200 and whatever thousand people, you know, you probably have, like, let's say you have 300 friends on your list. Well, when you take these surveys and you just check the, okay, I accept. Well, these things were saying, if you give me your data, well, I have access to your friends' data too, right? All your friends' data. And if there's 238,000 people, it doesn't take, well, there's your 50 million people, 238,000 people. When you think about that kind of connectivity, well, that can expand out to, well, 50 million people. So there's 50 million people that were inadvertently or arbitrarily caught up in this mess, this survey. It wasn't that Facebook did anything. It was the fact that these people that put on this survey, they put out there, they put in the disclaimer, and that'll probably all come to light once this all goes through the legal process. And by the people that voluntarily chose to opt into these things, well, you're the one that sold out your fucking friends, because You must know when you do these things online, you know, they're not just getting your information, they can get your friends or your friends of friends information as well. Pay attention to these fucking things, like these apps or these quizzes or these surveys and shit. I don't take any of them for the most part because I know I'm not just screwing myself and giving everybody all the information about me. I'm actually doing that for all my friends too if I accept these, you know, these disclaimers or these terms of services for these fucking surveys and shit. So, like I said, personal responsibility and personal accountability goes a long way. It's your own fault, people, for putting yourself out there like that. Don't try to now blame Facebook or Cambridge Analytica or Trump or, you know, whatever, fucking Russians, I don't know, whatever. Stop trying to blame everyone else. Own up to the fact that it was these 238 or 280,000 people or so. You sold yourself and everyone else up the river, but you did it voluntarily. So in reality, hey, it is what it is. And reality, that's another thing, actually, to clarify things further. All it does is help political campaigns target, you know, their advertising and shit, right? Like I said, they're all doing it. Like this article suggesting, the liberals do it too. I would say that all the political parties out there are doing the same kind of stuff. So, you know, trying to point out to any particular one like Trump or the Brexit vote, yeah. What it is, once again, and I've said this in past videos, is just a bunch of fucking sore losers now that are pissed off the fact that it worked for someone else, a different political party, or their political opponents, and didn't work out as well for them. They're just sore losers.
The British Prime Minister is demanding full cooperation.
The allegations are clearly very concerning, and I would expect Facebook, Cambridge Analytica, and all organisations involved to comply fully with the investigation that's taking place.
The Cambridge University researcher who developed the app that was used to mine the data says he was told it was legal and claims he's being unjustly blamed.
My view is that I'm being basically used as a scapegoat by both Facebook and Cambridge Analytica when, honestly, we thought we were acting perfectly appropriately.
And the Canadian whistleblower who revealed the data breach says Facebook needs to take its share of the blame.
I think, you know, Facebook deserves a certain level of scrutiny. But, you know, that wasn't what I set out to do. I'm not on a crusade against Facebook.
For days since the story broke, Zuckerberg was missing in action. Now Zuckerberg is admitting Facebook made mistakes, but that's unlikely to diminish the demands for answers, including from Canada. Tonight we've learned Christopher Wiley, that Canadian who blew the whistle on all of this, also worked on a fledgling data harvesting project for the Trudeau government on Parliament Hill. And questions are swirling tonight about what exactly he was paid to do and what access he had to your personal data. That's what our chief political correspondent, David Aiken, is looking at tonight.
So before I continue on, you heard the UK Prime Minister over there talking about, oh, they're going to investigate. Well, let me ask you this as a personal question right now. Just put it out there and put it in the comments of this video below. You know that your relationship with Facebook is wholly voluntarily. You can opt in, you can opt out, you can just never fucking frequent the platform ever again, right? So you have that choice, voluntary. It's completely voluntary. Or you can allow these governments, whether it's the UK government, the Canadian government, or the government of the United States, or any of these other Western governments, to now intervene and have control and dominance over these platforms and regulate them. Where then now you're going to be restricted and denied your ability to do anything that's outside the purview of the government, of the gun in the room. Like I say, Facebook has no pretense of doing anything to you. Like I say, totally voluntary relationship. Do you really want to, in addition to that normal, voluntary relationship, do you really want to bring in an authoritarian thug in there that's now going to be an intervener in that relationship? Do you think that relationship is going to work out very well? Or do you think ultimately that authoritarian intervener will ultimately destroy the relationship completely? And that's another thing. The government, it's funny, none of these people are pointing out. I mean, if I was a media personality, I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be pointing out the fact that, the Five Eyes, Canada, like our CSIS or the NSA in the US or the spy agencies in the UK or New Zealand or Australia, yeah, they're all working together, and they have been, and doing it under the radar secretly without your permission at all, without you even knowing. Well, the Snowden revelations, they've been sniffing it all, collecting it all, that whole fucking thing there, the Glenn Greenwald revelations, in regards to Snowden. You know, remember, collect it all. They're collecting all your data. And it's not just from Facebook. It's your Twitter. It's everything that you do electronically. The governments are doing it. And you're not giving them any permission. They're doing it against your rights. They're invading and infringing on your privacy every single time you do anything digitally or electronically. But yet you want these same people, the people in government, you're supporting these fuckers, you know, investigating these social media platforms where your relationship is voluntarily. Like I say, folks, listen, I don't understand how people, well, statism, it's a religion. Because for you to think in any manner that would be aligned with this shit it's just, like I say, it's just like sitting in your local fucking church and being indoctrinated into a faith. Because you're not thinking clearly or even using any objective logic or reason if you're willingly allowing this whole pretense, this whole propagandist narrative that's being presented by, think about it, the establishment media. You know, of course they have it. It's a vested interest in all of them. It's not a conspiracy. It's just an invested interest in all of them to hate on or try to eliminate their competition, which is social media platforms. Whether it's global news, global media, I mean, listen to them all. They're all now looking for the government to get bailed out because social media has allowed us to completely circumvent and ignore those in the established media, these propagandists in the established media, if we want to. So, of course, it's in their vested interest. It's in their best interest to paint these social media platforms as, oh, they're all so terrible. Don't fall for the hype. Don't fall for the bullshit. Don't fall for the propaganda. Anyways, I'm not going to play the rest of this. Basically, those few points are what I wanted to really cover. But I'll post a link to it in the description of this video below, so you can listen to the rest of it, or you can just read through the article. But once again, I'm going to say it one more time, folks. Be personally accountable and responsible instead of looking to use the gun in the room all the fucking time, right? You're not going to help your situation or anyone else's situation by constantly, you know, clamoring for government, the gun in the room, as the intermediary or the intervener or the arbiter that gets to dictate and control what happens on these social media platforms. It's a Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.